I'm going to start by reading something I found in my father's belongings amongst the poems written by Tom Johnson. While it isn't signed by Tom, I believe from the cadence and the humor that this is in fact one of Tom's poems. It's called Names and Names. If everybody in this world of every color, creed, and fame descended from a common tree, please tell me how each got his name. I'm passing along the street each day, or looking around the church each week. I find so many different names, the reasons it's hard to speak. There's Adams and Eve, and Masters and Moses, a patriarch Dave, gardens and roses, a Clark and a Crawford, a Casement and a Chance, a Bell and a Burroughs, a Grills and a Grant. There's Fraser and Fitz and Murdoch and Marlin. There's Millers and Suttons and Sheerans and Darlings. We've lived house and Montgomery's and Bill, Jones and Charlton, both Ben and Dick. And Johnson and Jewell, and Gibson and the Gibson, and Chris and Paul. There's one boy, Johnson, also and Susan, Reed, Sawyer, and Collins, and Mark and Judy. There's Williams and Bell, and Moses and Bob. There's Stuart and Simmons and Martin and Wood. And Chris, there's a boy and White City, and Johnson, Mother, and Thompson, and Woodson. There's Paul and Wilson. There's Wilson. There's Lucy, Meredith, and Karen and Rock. We've a wood and a woodhouse, a jewel and a mole. We've built a huge and brother, like service, but we realize that we care for me. We've here built by ground, and built by faith, and secrets like Kingston and bases like Lake. A David, but no Goliath. A Joyce, but no Ford. And Sammy the woodman who gave the full sword. We've Isaac and Seth and Stephen. An Abel, but no Cain. There's Scriber and Stabler and Peacock and Payne. We've Elmsley and Bailey, Lakely, Langley and Little Minnie. There's Johnson and Jory and Baxby and Ray. There's Theodore in the store and Peter in the mill, a Blewett, a Ball, a Moon, and a Hill. There's Tiny and the Chief and Chittick with Claire. There's Darby and Webster and Hunters and Fair. We've a Graham and a Greer, a chapel but no church. And trees in our park of both chestnut and birch. Villages there are both mechanics and plumbers. No ups but downs, no winters but summers. There's Johnny and Percy and Louie also, who take you wherever you want to go. There's Watson and Kidd and Dunsford and Dever, and Purdy and Pearson and Scott and Stenner. We've Little and Fairburn, Taylor and True, and Garbett and Preston and many a dude. There's McManus and Young, Richardson and Nixon. There's Edwards and Allen, Killam and Mason. We've Clydesdale, Campbell, Bullock, and Bolton. We've Sanderson, Junkins, Wellburn, and Walton. The Hebrew is scarce. He stands almost alone. And only for Dawn would be typified by Cosmo of Colin. There's Tom and Bill and Will and Melky and Hermie. And when there's a fire, we see Johnny and Ernie. There's Alex and Dick and Russell with his Ford. When they start up, the neighbors say, "Oh, Lord." There's McFadden with the locks and Dad down on the dredge, but they both draw the line and handle the sledge. Old Ireland is there, with her form and her grace, with her Spencers, both George and First, to uphold its fighting race. Old England is there, with a few odd Simpsons, and there are Hawkins and Harrisons and Higgins and Wilsons. The Scotch are there with Kemp and Garvey, MacDonald, Mackenzie, and Thompson and Harvey. But we must not omit from this roll call the name of our old friend Paul, as in doing so would leave us liable because he's mentioned in the Bible. Names famous in peace and famous in war, fill box after box and drawer after drawer. If names increase both domestic and foreign, the postmaster will wish he'd never been born. I think that was fun. I really did. Did you hear ones you knew? That's the thing. Yeah, and maybe even your own. Yeah. Anyway. If any of you want a copy of that, you can give your name to Sheila. And she'll write down your address or your email and she'll send you a copy. Okay, it's kind of neat. Anyway. Now the poem is a bit like what I was saying in my talk, beginning of my talk here. I trace my ancestors back to Donald Payne, from Ireland. land as part of the United Empire was, as they fled to Ernestown, Prince Edward County. Nathan's daughter, Catherine, see Catherine? There's another Catherine. My granddaughter, Catherine. Nathan's daughter, Catherine, married James Johnson, who had also come from Ireland to Ernestown. Their daughter, Mary Polly, married William Jewell. Their son, Lorenzo Jewell, is my great-great-grandfather. He lived to be 99 and died in Kingston. His son, Sheldon Jewell, married Thomas Godfrey. His daughter, Maggie, who married John McNamara, and his daughter, Lydia, who married Patrick Sage, all settled in Selwyn Township. Imagine my surprise when I found I'm related to the large McNamara clan and the Sage family. After the Sheldon met Hannah Godfrey, he left for the Merchant Marines. I have a match holder. Oh, match holder. This is my match holder, girl. He brought this back to her from, don't see the little thing up here. Back from when he was overseas. And the only picture that we have of him is taken in his uniform in East France. And when I took that match holder off my mother's shelf, which was way higher than me, when I was cleaning up her place, I looked inside, and lo and behold, there was no here. And guess who it belonged to? My grandma had snipped it off and stuck it in. That little match thing was always in the house, but I never saw inside it. It was always up on the shelf. Anyway, that's here. I also have a letter from Sheldon's brother William in Port Huron, Michigan, written to him in 1895. In response to a letter Sheldon had written to him asking about the prospects for work. This Vicky, some of you may have known, a classmate of mine from public school, found this letter and contacted me a few years ago thinking I would be interested. I was ecstatic. Apparently, he rummaged around down River Road where he had a farm. He found this letter and had it for years. Anyway, it was just something I couldn't believe I was finding. It said, Port Austin, Michigan, Huron County, August the 9th, 1895. Dear brother, meaning Sheldon, and sister, meaning sister-in-law, Sarah. I take the pleasure of answering your kind and welcome letter, which I received yesterday. We are all well at present, hoping to find you the same. Times is hard here, where I be. It has been so dry there is no crop. Hay is worth from $25 to $30 a ton. I've got 5 horses, a 5-year-old, 2-year-old mare, and a spring colt. There's only a farm country here. There is no mills close around here. The only place I know that you could get steady work is about 30 miles from here. They pay 50 cents for cutting wood, a cord. And if you like it there, you can get 40 acres of land for $100 by paying $25 down. And it's good land and easy cleared. You can work for the company just the same. It is on the lakeshore. Father lives with Amelia. I heard he was sick and he did not think he would live long. I think the reason they want the site is because he has got a little money left. Maggie lives in about 8 miles from here, where this work is. If you make up your mind to come here, I think it will cost you about $8 fare. If you get an immigrant ticket, it will only cost you about half fare. It will not cost you anything from here to go and see the place where we can go in the boat. If you are, the way must be on the lakeshore too. If you're coming, let me know, for I will go to you to look at the place. Right as soon as you get this letter. This is all so good. Bye. Be sure to write soon. William Jewell, Port Austin, Michigan. Now, that was Sheldon's brother, and he had moved with his family down to Port Austin. I actually found the tombstones down there on the internet, and got pictures of them and put into my genealogy book. But Sheldon never went. He got sick, and he died in 1899, so that was only like 3.5 years after that, and left. So Sheldon and Hannah had a son, my grandfather, Truman, and a daughter, Lily, who married John Rowe and left the area. Now the Rowes are still out in that area towards Warsaw. Truman married my grandmother, Mary Ellen Bickle, in 1909 to the Bickle homestead. which is the red brick house where the Sickmans live. You probably stopped there to buy corn. Okay? That's where the Sickmans are. Mary Ellen and all her brothers and sisters were born there. It was also where Elder John Bickle fell in the barn and suffered injuries that eventually led to his death. In my research, I found an article in Peterborough Examiner in March 1890 that explains the accident and the subsequent obituary. On Friday last, Mr. John Bickle, a well-known farmer in Smith Township, met with a serious accident. While pulling down straw from a log in his barn, he dropped to the floor in the pole, which separated where he stood, and fell on the farming mill stand beneath, a fanning mill stand beneath. He lay insensible for a long time, but finally roused sufficiently to walk to the house. Dr. Fraser, some of you remember we had the Dr. Fraser, was called in, attended to Mr. Bickle's injuries, from the effects of which he is now lying in a precarious condition. Inflammation is also attacked on his lungs, and altogether Mr. Bickle will have a hard time pulling through. And then the next thing is the obituary. Mr. Bickle was a native of Stafford Barton, Devonshire, England, from which place he came with his parents, Benjamin and Charity Bickle, to Canada in 1844. Mr. Bickle leaves behind him on his death a wife, 3 sons, 2 daughters, 4 brothers, and a sister. Mr. George Bickle in Bowmanville, Mr. J. Bickle, Toronto, Mr. Richard Bickle, Woodstock, and Mr. William Bickle, Mariposa, are his brothers. And Mrs. Richard Purdy of Easttown is his sister. The funeral, which took place on Sunday, March the 23rd, was one of the largest ever held in the county, and was a striking testimony to the exceeding high experience in which the deceased gentleman was held. The Bickle thing comes back that when they came out to Canada, all of those brothers came, as well as John and the sister, and then they just went all over the place. So there's different ones we actually found some of them and got together with them. Many of you know the Bickle. John Bickle was among the first settlers in this area, and his son Harry was the father of larger-than-life Bruce, Mary Ellen, a.k.a. Ella, my grandmother, Lil, Roxy, Mabel, Grace, and Beatrice. At one point, the Bickles owned all the property between Concession 5 and Griffith's Garden Center. Back then, Griffith's house was called Cedar Lodge, and in 1908 it belonged to Elizabeth Bickle, older sister to my great-grandfather Harry, and the setting of a beautiful wedding of her daughter Mary. Many of you will know Mary as Mary Preston. So if you have to make that connection, then we go. Older sister, many of you will know Mary. She married Bruce Preston. My relatives took part in a large Bickle wedding, and I thought I would share some of the write-up for that wedding. A very pretty wedding was solemnized at Cedar Lodge, now the same as the Garden Center. So that house was there, that Kyle is now living was Cedar Lodge. Mary was united in matrimony to Mr. Bruce Preston, Reverend Bedford of Lakefield officiating. Mary was given away by her uncle, Mr. James Bickle. Ribbon girls were Eva Alford, Rita Preston, Ollie Jory, Roxy Bickle, Elwood Rubin, Page, David London with Bertha, I'm not sure, Preston, names of the group. So there we are, after Jory and the I thought it might be interesting for some of you to learn when the Bickle land was pastored, where it is located and why the cemetery on the Highway 28 corner of the 6th line is called Bickle Johnson Cemetery. I traced the Bickles back to England in the early 1700s. John Bickle's son Abel was born in 1744. His son Benjamin was born in 1785, and his son, my great-great-grandfather John, was born in 1820. John and his wife Grace came to Canada in 1844 with a large family and settled on Concession 6, Lot 16 in Smith Township, Peterborough County. Remaining on the homestead with their parents were my great-great-grandfather John and sister Mary Sharon. They hired a farmhand from Bowmanville. His name was Fred Bird. His mother was Mary Clancy. He was from Bowmanville, ready with the directions of the farm, and then he could pick up. They hired Fred, Richard Richardson, who subsequently married them. They were married, but they were only at the farm. And they remained on the original Best farm that we may know of as the Bird farm. Their son Fred continued on, and it was eventually designated a heritage site, the heritage farm. I'm not sure what year, but it was done in 1924, and the heritage went in 1944, so imagine what it is now. And it's still there. I think there was somebody that really strict there at one point. Sally and I are going to go where we were living. John Jr. and Grace bought Lot 24, Concession 5, Smith Township. That's the one I said was the difference, okay? That came from Concession 5, which is at the hill at the top of where John Taggart is, and then it goes all the way down to the lot. Okay, that's the difference. Curious, I did some research and found a document that states that the civil agreement between John and Grace Bickle, my great-grandfather was in, so in 1873, and called for an acre to be set aside. The reason being, it had been patented to a Robert Johnson Sr., and his son subsequently took it over, and he was Robert Jr., and he acquired the property, of course, from his dad, and then he eventually sold it to John Bickle. And then it said, save and accept therefrom 1 acre by the same more or less set apart and fenced in and used for a burial ground. The deed was dated the 18th day of March, 1873. And in that burial ground, I think that it must be Robert's wife's daughter. Her name was Mary Johnson, and she had died when he married her. And he was there for a later. And there's a person there named Mary Ann, who was a Preston, but the Mary Ann is elder. We don't know who she is. Maybe that's something we can look into. And then there are 2 Cochran people, a William Cochran, a Liza Cochran, and a village, a J village, with no information about him. So that's something that we can't share. There is a way. That's there. Because he now owns the land that we can go with the cemetery. The oldest sister of Harry, my great-grandfather, Elizabeth, as we mentioned there a minute ago, who had the wedding, was Mary Ann Bickle, and she married a Levi King, which was her mother, this obituary of hers. She was the wife of Levi King, and she was the daughter of John Bickle. And she had one daughter whose name was Mrs. Arthur Jory, so that's the Jory coming that way. And 2 brothers, George Bickle and Harry Bickle, and sister Elizabeth Norrish, which was Mary Becky's mother. And she was preceded by a daughter who was married to a Mr. John Boswell, which was coming that way too, and her brother James Bickle. And she was a member of the Regent Street Church. Which one? There's 3. So we aren't sure. I assume she was Methodist, but I don't know. Anyway. So this means I'm also related to the Boswells and the Torys. And 3 years after John died, Grace, his wife, who was still on that Christmas farm, moved to Lakefield and eventually lived in the house she bought on Bridge Street, which is across from the high school. Just across the street, there was a white house there. And then when her daughter then came to live with her, Mary Preston. So then she died. And then when Mary died, it was left to her solo with her daughter, Autumn Coon, and she was there after that. So it stayed in the family for a long time too. So that's the history of how the Bickle side of my family arrived here. And on the Jewell side, we think my great-grandfather Sheldon, once he was young, much younger than his sisters, and we think he must have visited his sister Mary Macklemore and his sister Lydia Page, and they moved to the area where he met when he came, he met Hannah Page. Or Hannah, sorry. Hannah was raised, she was the daughter of Sam Godfrey and Alma Mowry. And she was raised in the house of the Bill and Dolly Bolton's house. I was 15. Oh, that's you have to look at her impression. On George Street, Wakefield. So that was the street down from behind off the gas that next street. And that's where that house is. And it was built by the well-known builder of the Nazi. Sherman and Ella then resided in Lakefield and had two sons, Holly, Harry, and Albert, a.k.a. Homer. Sherman is known for being a decorator in Lakefield and is also known for music. He organized the first Lake Brooklyn band and was a band leader for 30 years. He played the trumpet and fiddle, and he was a member of the Peterborough band as well. I remember him singing all the Irish songs I know today. Christmas and Corn is a favorite, and I even have one of my pupils stopping in the street one day and chatting. She said, still remember us going to the gym to sing Christmas songs, and they always played your favorite, Christmas and Corn. Wow, did I ever make an impression? Anyway, and all the Irish lullabies, that's the thing. Sherman was by property and such thing up in Southern. At one time, he owned the property next to the town school where the subdivision is, where right in the belt. People all live up in there. That was his at one point. His friends were all kids, healthy kids that taught school and all. Worked in the brothers. Nell wrote letters to my dad from the First World War. And I thought I might share them with you. They're in his handwriting, so be patient. Whitley Camp, Surrey, England, May 6, 1916. Dear friends, I thought I would drop you a line tonight, the guy in one of ours needs to not go up to town. There is a subsection going on a draft. I do not know where, but I think it is garrison duty on the coast someplace. A fellow in the hut told me just now that I am on a shooting commit. Kids were all necessary. But I have heard nothing of it from the sergeant major. I received 2 letters from home this week. It is always a feast or a family or a week or more. We will get a lot of mail and then no mail, and then half a dozen letters. I was just at the door of the hut watching airships go past. But they are nothing. It's never here. Or we see them all the time. Things will be quiet for Lakeville when the soldiers are moved to Peterborough. But believe me, they will find a big change when they hit their country. Get up at 5 and quit at 5:30 p.m. and carry your pack on a route march. Your friends now. And the next one was dated with the Camp Surrey, June 14th, 1916. Dear friends, I see your letter and I'm glad to hear from you indeed. I thought I would answer right away, so we will get our last lead tomorrow up here. And then I hear again that we may not get any lead until we get to France. Battery was up at Lakefield for firing practice, and it did well. We had some trip on the way up. I drove spare horses and put on shoes on the way. The first day we went to a town called Alton, about 20 miles from Whitley, and stopped there for the night. It was a very nice little town about the size of Lindsay. We left there at 6 o'clock in the morning and went to Winchester, one of the oldest cities in England. And believe me, we had some time. The next stop we had was at a little place called Wall. We left there at 1 o'clock in the morning and got to Larkhill at 7 o'clock in the morning. Well over 24 hours. I was glad to get in, for we were tired and cold and hungry. We took along a couple of blankets and a rubber sheet and slept under a tree or out in the field any place. The war is beginning to tell in this country. You can see a few girls working in the field, driving drays, buses, and doing all kinds of work in the city. But still, there's a lot of fellows with the uniform on that. And the war does not look a bit more I did a year ago. How is Holly, which Francis older son, how is Holly getting along? I said, well, he could play a cornet by now. What is old John Boston doing? He was to teach him, he was to teach him skill at John Boston teacher. Or is she teaching house for little John? Pete Patrick and Pete Jewell are both going to be, I think it's the AAC, they will be catching that shadow. And Pete Patrick and Ella Schumann are both in the DAC. They will be fetching up shows like that. And Schumann thinks it will be a dangerous job. Mine, he is afraid to finish off. I think, by the way, he talks, and the fellow is just stuffing full. I think this will be all of the time. How is Miss Dunbar getting along? I don't know whether or not I'm Dear friends, this one is from France, February 25th, 1917. Dear friends, I received your letter a few days ago and was more than pleased to hear from you. I'm writing this letter in a French house, and a jolly bunch they are in. I've had a couple of glasses of stout, bowl of soup, and a slice of green tea. I do not know what they will fetch me next. Some places the French people use it fine, and other places let me just speak to one thing the world is open. I'm thinking myself that it might finish this summer. I would like to get home for Christmas, but it will be only a chance. Some fellows are betting the war will be over before the 24th of May, but I can't see it. I see by your letter that a little baby boy has been left at your place. Well, boys are the only kind to get, for they will need a lot of boys after this war. I hope it does not keep you awake at night. How is Teddy Crawford? I'm getting along. I suppose he has a big sale on Saturday. There's the one around the corner where Jane and I have the barbershop now. There were two Teddy Crawfords, one was a butcher. I hear by the letters I get from home that Holly's old mill is pulled down, and Griffin's mill, and also the Cavendish stable. There will soon be no place left. How is A.G. Graham? I don't know who that is. Getting along. Well, and has he got many horses? What about your friend, J.H. Davis? Is he married yet? And is Bert with him or not? I heard he was going to leave, but I never heard of him going. I hope you and Mrs. Jewell and the family are in the best of health. I remain your friends now. So those are the war letters from the first war. Underneath, Grandma and Kevin, and at some point, at the bottom of one of them, where he signed out, she took a pencil and read the kid beside it. Or I never would have known who it was. So, thank you, Grandma. And I saw somebody with a little kid here. Come on here, Grandma. So, while Sherman worked with his business in Lakeville, Albert raised the three boys, kept the books, and was part of the Women's Institute at the United States. Early in my dad's life, the family moved into a house beside Jerry Norley's, and he and Jerry used to be best friends. Now, Jerry Norley's house is the one at the top of Reed Hill. Wilkins lived on one side, and Norley's were across the street. They worked by the 50s for them now. Okay, so you know where they are. Yeah. Later in 1929, Truman, my grandfather, moved the house that was behind Leonard Hardware in Sunshine now. He moved that house up to 11 Queen Street, which is where Mrs. Ingram Hunter lives now. It's across from their house and place, you know, they had a circle house, all right? And it was next door. To the north was Emma Kennedy, who was a longtime teacher at the public school. That's where the house was built. And so then they moved into the house. Homer and his friends, is my dad, have somewhat of a legacy in Lakeville. His crowd includes Tom Johnson, Gary Murray, Jack Morris, Ken Morris, Bob Chitty, and in later years, Kit Carson, Mary Lewis, Jack Morris, Jim Vesters, and many strings. I didn't mean that. Ken Morris, being raised by the Charltons, of course, there was money, and he had his own car as a young guy, but none of the other fellows did. And he had, as Jack said, 4 years, a gas food rations, and he had access, because of Charlton, he had access to gas. So he was the drug, and it all, the kids are all over the news and all over the place like that, and he was the Tom Johnson came home before going overseas, and Homer was best man. Vi Hudson Graham was maid of honor. Elvin was Van Jensen's godfather. Jack Morrison, who many of you will know, was Bill Cameron's brother. And he was my dad's best man at his wedding to my mom. Lillian Bolton, Jerry North's wife, became my mom's best friend and helped introduce her to new friends. The war hit the village of Lakeville pretty hard. While my dad was turned away for medical reasons, his brother Holly went off to join the war effort, as did Tom Johnson, who said he was 18 but might have been 16. All the Graham brothers, and Jack Morrison, named too. Jack died within the first month of going overseas after a year in the military. He was one of the Lakeville boys killed in the war. The family and the village mourned and my dad, and not the parents, and talked to me about it and he won't do. The next story is from my family, who was my parents. Now I'm going to tell you this. When you remember the beautiful Lakeville people, the Tawarns owned the hotel, and they had a niece named Jewell, who lived in St. Mary's, Ontario, near London. Her best friend was my mother, Elizabeth Kelly. The summer the girls were 16, they came to Lakeville to work at the hotel for Jillian and Uncle. Their first love came to Lakeville was in Oshawa. They were working at the munitions plant there, that job there. On June the 27th, 1942, with Truman and Ella Jewell and Isabel and Frank May, Verna Woods was maid of honor, and as mentioned, Jack Morrison from Lakeville was the best man. On November 23rd, 1943, on Baby Girl, Jerry and Lillian brought us home from the hospital. My great-grandma May sent a card of congratulations with the following. Solomon sang of the roses of Sharon. Lynn is a sweet singer. Last but not least, Jewell is a precious gem. Sharon and Lynn, Jewell. My mother's family were all through the American Empire, where they owned the department store in St. Mary's called the White May Company. This is where my mom got all the materials for sewing clothes and my winter coats, and I took the deep house cleaning at the department store during our long Christmas and summer. My mom and dad and I moved into 211 Queen Street with my grandparents, Sharon and Ella, for 2 years. They spent building a home 2 doors down. My parents built the house themselves with the help of their parents. The main sending supplies to St. Mary's and Sharon helping to build. One winter, my dad built all the windows for the house and stored them in the Kennedy barn next door. They had a fireplace built and they did the flooring themselves, and they even started a small flooring business at one point. My grandfather would send from the department to have the flooring. He would send the tiling, and the felt, which was in a big roll, and the glue, you ship it, and it would come in from a station, like this, and different places that were in that work to be decorated, they would be asked to be interested in flooring. And so the mom and dad would go and make flooring, and play floor. And so when they built the little house, my mom actually carved a kettle and some bubbles for the kitchen floor. It was inlaid. And in the back, and she had stitched to see the bubbles from. That was key. And then the kitchen, instead of having the kitchen area, we had that build a booth in the front, like you would get in a restaurant, that was our kitchen for the one thing. And then we had enough box. And the one box was for the director, one box. Turned out to be something that Grandma had put in the house recently. And every once in a while, she'd forget her keys and go to the street. And then I'd have to find the milk box. Anyway, no boxes in my life. Alvin had joined Sherman in the interior decorating business by the time they spent the rest of their lives, and they spent the rest of their lives in this business. Sherman bought a Kaiser Fraser, a rough box with motors out of Hollywood. And that was because the back seat folded down, and they could put their ladders and their paint and everything in there. So the young people in the hatchback, we went. Graham and I were partners in crime in many funny adventures together, walking down from up there to shop on Saturday nights because stores were always open on Saturday nights. And everybody did shopping, everybody visited. And on the way down, just as you get past the last big brick house coming down Queen Street, there was woods all in there. And there was a little house in there. You know, it was painful and dry, there was woods around the same closet little house. And my grandmother would peek in the window. And me peeking in. And I was only 4, probably, or 3.5. Why did my grandmother peek in the window? Well, it turned out it was Elizabeth Bickle, her aunt, who lived in it, who was with Morris when they were fucking mom. And so they lived in there. And she was anyway, found out it was many years later when I thought my grandmother was a Tom. And then from there, we would go and peek in the window at the pavilion to watch them on the dance because it was Saturday night. So then we would go on down a little further and around the corner. We came into the local the apartment buildings that are in there. We did the convenience store. I heard that good recognize them. Slowly, she was so, and she told the grandmother to take me to the I got to remember there before it was even foolish. It's amazing how things go down. Anyway, then we went on down to and then we went around the corner to what Ellen had for brought the food. She had been in the big lockers. But people would come for eating, they liked them. And so they would get their meat, it would be round, cut around, and then you put it in your bin that you rented, and it was a big locker. You walked in, bought your meat for the weekend. So Graham and I would go in there and get what we wanted, and one night we went in, and the door was this thick, and it shut behind us, and it locked. Oh my word, I was terrified. There was a little window in the door, and she was pounding on it, and I remember somebody coming. And it's strange, but I was looking at Vintage Lakefield not long ago, and I think it was Arlene Dunbar who said that she was terrified, and before she would go in, she'd get Carol and say, I'm going in there, and you have to come and stand until I come out, because I'm scared of being locked in. Oh. that's what my grandmother explained to me. We shopped in every one of those stores because then those storekeepers would get my dad and my grandpa to come do their decorating. And that's how a small town survived. They all depended on each other. Which was so hard. And in those days too, I think eventually Lenny delivered to me on his bike. He could pull over and give you an order, and they would cut it and wrap it and give it to Lenny and drive over to the house and get it for him. And actually, in later years, I discovered that Woody Carroll delivered cookies for Grace Young in St. Louis. He was one of those go-getters, still getting. Okay. Our neighbors around the new house we built were the Dykes across the road, where you could watch the horses graze. And then they had the goats. They cut them on because we had one more, not that much ground. And they used the kids used to dye it, colors. The ones that are in the front yard. It was all that color. Then Miss Kennedy decided was on one side of it, and the other side where Leanna Kane was just sold was Colonel Simpson, who was from the military. He didn't know if he was slave with him, so that he was on either side of my grandparents. So at my first birthday, my mother was written in my baby book that Colonel and Mrs. Simpson, Miss Kennedy, my Uncle Harry and Miss Jean, Faith Johnson and Anne were there, and Betty Crow and Marlene Hamlin, Jerry and Lily Norley, Vera Bennington, Annie Blewett, who was Aunt Jean's mother, and my grandma Jewell and my mom and dad. So that was my first birthday party at Herman's house. Well, then by the time I was 5, I was down in the Street, and my party back here was more little girls. Carol Morley, Carol Down, Gloria Longmaker, Agnes Fraser, Neil Johnson, and Karen Green. That's my 5th birthday. Would we like to be 5 again? I ran into a friend on the street one day who was at my party later when we were in grade school, and she said, you know, I still remember your birthday party because your mother gave the best party ever. And I always thought they were good, but I didn't know they were that good. But yeah, she was like that. She also was so talented, and she worked with my grandfather in his workshop in my house when she was a kid all the time. And he built stuff, and he was very interested in electricity and all that. And so by the time they built their little house up the highway, she lighted it. So that was pretty neat. And then when they built this cottage building, she went with the guys, Mr. White and White, three buildings, to meet his builder. And other builders, parties or something, small builders. So, and she had a grade 8 piano, she played piano, she was amazing. She was a solo, a mentor. She was Cheryl, and helped solo letters. So it was a comfortable business family. I think her life was good. And she solo letters. Like that. Anyway. She sewed many dresses and costumes for us, for the skating, for Annette Brown made dress costumes. Annette was out in front of the cadets and the band, and we had our, and she'd been the Girl Guides, and Jesse Bowes coached her, started the Girl Guides in Lakefield because they had no guides, they were scouts, Girl Guides in Burma. And she started the company, and she had my grandfather from the store donate the flag, and the guide flag. So they had flags carried in the parade and things like that. She was always a go-getter. She helped us raising funds for the uniforms that we need. She eventually took a job as a secretary in our first principal was Mr. Stevens, that they hired from outside the area. Ironically, he was from St. Mary's, and he knew my grandparents. didn't know my mom, but he knew my grandparents. And so that was kind of a little. Dad was a great friend to many workers, and worked 6 days a week with his dad. He was a great storyteller, and he could cheer up anyone and make you laugh. His pastimes were fishing, hunting, going back to the camp across the lake. He was very accomplished at swimming, hockey, and baseball, and pool, and he loved to read. He was all around, even though he had to stay in school. He'd never lost other things that he was very interested in at one time was the National Geographic, was the Pompeii area in Italy. And he used to talk to me about it all the time. And I eventually, when I traveled, got to go to Pompeii. And I could just think I'd love to be able to talk to my dad again about it. During the time we lived in Queen Street up there, we'd go for picnics down Clarence Coon's compound street, where Winfield Shores is now. We would go down to the cows and sit by the water and have a picnic. And for some reason, Sherman decided to purchase and renovate a house on Regent Street built by, here we are again, Peter Bassey. Sherman and Ella bought the house, which consisted of 1820 Regent Street, and closed up the doors to make two houses with two deeds. Sherman and Ella were upset, but I was not. I was now far away, around the corner and up the road, but I was far away. So they convinced Elvis and Betty to sell their new little house that they just built and buy. But they were here from England. And in order for him to bring the family out, he had to have a job and a home for them to live in. That was one of the things immigrants had to do at those days. And so he was interested, and they bought the house. Their last name was Lapp. And Jennifer still comes to our high school reunions. She's best friends with Noni Griffith, that we remember Noni. And they live where the meat store is now, beside the beer store there. That's where Griffith's store. And so off we moved to Regent Street, where my parents spent the rest of their lives, living there was like being in the country. The Sullivans lived just down around behind the railroad station, and they had chickens and a rooster every day. And might have your windows up. So you heard the rooster, and then you heard the cows bawling in the stockyard for milk, because they were brought in. They were up on the farm to go by train. So they bawled all night. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, there was the milk wagon, the horse walking down the lane in the morning, early, very right on. Anyway, yeah, so I have a special poem then that was written about Regent Street. And of course, it was called Notes from Summer's Diary, Somewhere in Poland. Dear Mom, today reminds me of you. Beautiful, the way a halo was beautiful. The sun is friendly, but the frost is raking the tree. And the leaves are blushing. I can almost taste the burning leaves of home, and closing my eyes, I can see Regent Street's colored detail. It is a street for slowly walking down. Every step is a treasure to remember. Even with my 2,000-mile telescope, I can see Matthew washing his car, Mrs. Hunter using a whisk instead of a rake. Hello, thief. Truman Jewell on top of a ladder. Mrs. Gilman telling of the unneighborly dog. Good afternoon, Clary, and to turn down the lane. That's fast. Don't change anything, Mom, especially your recipes. The two words grand and mother were joined together, especially for people like you. I'm here. That's what you're going to eat. Somebody's on the way. Here. Pardon that smudge in the paper. It must be raining. The most delightful person in our unit is the mailman, so keep writing. Armfuls of baby tone. So it's ready to the font. Obviously, it's what it is. I love people that talk about Matthew was Frank. He lived across from 21. Mrs. Hunter was a widow who lived 17, and it was a joke about her going. My grandmother was on her front window on the road. She said, Mrs. Hunter was taking a country walk. And then he was people to live, and he was Mrs. Spence, who lived at 24 Region. Okay, in and Sharon Jewell went to school, and they were appointed. Mrs. Gilliland was on the other side of Battersea Lane at 14. She was from complaining. They ran loose at those days. Clary Duff was a man who lived in a little shack place. He used to walk the street and go anywhere. He might have been on Regent Street. And then, of course, the lane in the back place home church was taken and turned down. And of course, and then they lived a lot of them. Peter Bassey built many houses like this. He bought up land, built houses for his family. He bought property 8, 10, 14, 18, and 20 Regent Street. So that's starting down next door to where, well, it's not Martin Lawrence, so Anderson's funeral home, whatever. So from there, he bought that both, plus 31 and 27 on Rabbit Street, which is where the train comes. Okay, that's Rabbit Street, where the trailer comes. And he bought 4 and 8 down the lane as well. So he built homes for his growing family, and they moved into some of those homes down the lane. And in order to get to their houses, they had to cross the land that was between 18 and 20, which is where the dividing line was. Even when my mom and dad paid taxes in the 50s, it was still their property, and this was still home property. And then finally, the town confiscated it because they said they had to break. Anyway, that's why that happened. Peter's son William was living in 8 in 1876, and thus Bassey Lane was created by these families passing through the joint property of 14 and 1820. Peter Bassey built Fulton's house on and the Regent Street houses on Bassey Lane and many cottages on Stony Lake. His great grandson is named Alex Patton because his mother was he married. He's been into our house. He lives in Toronto, and he did send some things to this store side, but we're maybe going to change it. Although his wife is in the genealogist. As I mentioned, my mom started the first Girl Guide company and relied heavily on people like Aunt Calberry, who's one of the leaders. Mabel Coons, Miss Winder Smith, and Marge Wilford were Mother's Committee. They raised money in their whole bridge clubs and all that to help support the Girl Guide because they had no income, of course. And one summer we went to out on Lustig Lake. They call it Lustig Lake. The guides went. And that night, on Friday night, there was a hurricane named Audrey in 1907. And all the companies competed on at the camp, set all of their and the cook camp and all that kind of thing. Then the storm went through, went through everything, flooded everything, all the tents went down, everything. And then later, a couple of shows come on again. And we didn't have to do that because we just doing it for the first. But it was a great little camp, and we had fun. There's a whole bunch of, in my little autograph, there, a lot of the leaders that were there that week, and we signed my book and stuff, and it kind of means a lot of time. Let's see. The kids in the neighborhood, were when I moved in, there weren't, with all senior citizens, pretty much, except Louise Anderson at the funeral, and she was older than me, and the Sullivan kids. But at that time, Anne, they were all boys. I lived in Denver, Denver was my age. We did play together. Then there was a corner store, right at the corner of the Queen that I see them arguing about I didn't play together. Some of them never there. But it was there. mom would allow me to go to that or buy treats or whatever, just because I didn't have problems with rope and down. It was a cute little store, it had little stools in it and the booths and all the things we had today. Eventually, see on the other side, attached to it, was a big brick which was still there in the 80s. Uh, and in that house at that time was a Fraser family that lived there. And he was the principal of grade school, and there was a daughter who was just about my year old. She was the one that said that was on birth. And then they eventually moved, and Linda moved in there. And there was Linda, and I think Anna, and then there was Ted. He was in the high school band. They were there for quite a while. Too. And I fondly remember in the 50s being in one of the classes where we put on a play. I was my mom remade me dress. She had and I was playing the Queen to Bed song. And we're thinking but anyway, my mom was great for making little costumes out of her evening gowns and all that kind of stuff when I was to meet. I also remember that year, Dr. Gaskell was one of the first doctors in the village to get the polio vaccine and in Canada, not just here, because he was right. And we had a lot of polio, like remember Don Hendren walked with the grave, but there were a lot of cases. Came through it fine, but I was he was determined that he was going to vaccinate, like the school doctor as well. He was going to vaccinate. Well, I spent, I haven't got or yet, having a bronchitis when I was a child. And it's always on it. I'm not taking over midnight sometimes to see it. Or, anyway, I passed out in the and I slid on the floor and I fell down and I was all the oil. So, did you get that oily stuff on the mix it up? Well, when they carried me into the office, he was in Mr. Flow's giving me dark. He thought I'd done it. Black, black. Pearl Henson told that to my mom many years later. So not to upset her, but I just came out of it and was fine. And they sent me home, and I got the rest of the day. And apparently, everybody else in the class ended up vomiting and sick from having seen me on a boat. Anyway, that was a horrible. But he inoculated us all, and there were no more cases pulling around. He was established. And Linda Webster moved in down the lane when we were about 6. She was my best friend. We ended up in each other's pockets like sisters. Better, really, because we didn't have to compete with parents. And we had fun. She lived in the first house in the terrace with her brother Don and her sisters Diane and Joan. And we used to sit out in the big front lawn, and the trains would come right into the mill, right past there. Engineers wave at us, beat the horn, it was a big deal. We were friends with the engineers on the train. But we had a lot of fun. Many of my childhood memories surround the United Church. Mrs. Girls, Amy Girls, used to do the temple Sunday school. Anyway, Mrs. Brown played the piano. I don't know whether you've ever tried. Neil Wood was the drummer. He was also the superintendent of the Sunday school for years. Betty Millage and Connie Orr were a couple of the teachers Sunday school. And they used to take us to the park under the Hunter Street Bridge for our summer thing. We'd have races and games and all kinds of things. That was a big deal. And then now there's Wonderland and all those places, right? Yeah. I took piano lessons from Miss Nelson. She was just down the street in Regent Street too. She was of the Nelson family, that settled Lakefield. She lived in the house where Lori Neal lives now. In the gardens where they're prior to near the church. I have fond memories of swimming by Cross Marina. That's where our swimming pool was. And some of the video that I have on the little screen there shows my dad took it or my mom took it down at the beach. So it shows people water skiing, Harry Blue boats, and the cadets marching. My mom had a movie camera, but in those days it didn't have voice. So when I took from the 8 millimeter reel onto the VHS, I commentated it for my granddaughter. So you'll hear me saying, "Little grandma, little man, grandma's right there." Well, first one down, I'm like, and so, but she had the cadet song too, and the phrase was, and I used it at the reunion, the 50th reunion. Isabel and I did the 50th run, and we had it on the TV in that room. So I dug it out. And there's me and my puppy dog on it too. Anyway, so we had figure skating. Mrs. McDermott, she lived in Hampton, and we did carnival at the end of the year, and they were usually in March. Of course, it wasn't our and their costumes were made of crepe paper, and they would be a beach corner on the beach. Do you imagine what the crepe paper did? Uh-huh. Then eventually we got to costume material, and my mom did. And I recall doing a duet with Mary Lester, and mom doing costumes for her. Skating from school. If you were in grade 7 and you did all your work, when we got to go to school skating, so we got out of and walked down to the arena, and Mr. Patterson was there. People who did get finished, stay back to school, just all. And so it was huge to be able to go there. And of course, if you were in grade 7 and 8, it was your social too. All the boys and girls were there sitting together. And I remember some of the boys, like Steve O'Neill, Mike Heffernan, the Coughlin boys, John Bratton, Jim Henderson, John Millage, Beth Frost, Bill Coon, Dennis Sullivan, and then some of the girls were Marie Roseborough, Betty Payton, Sarah Foster, Sally Foster, Carolyn Ray, Jane Bolton, Linda Webster, all of us skated, and it was just wonderful because that was one of our social times that you could be together and you were surprised and we all loved to skate. And then there was the pond and the swamp that Don Webster and Tom Sullivan used to fly. And when they were playing hockey, Linda and I got figures. But we would skate in the swamp. It was full of pussy bones. And it would freeze, of course, in the winter. And as long as there hadn't been much snow, you could go in around all the pussy bones. It was wonderful. Now there's fire station, paramedics, a resident. We took high level dancing and tap dancing from this time. It was at the town hall. And we rode our bikes down, taking lunches and going down the river road or into Lynch's Rock. Anybody remember Lynch's Rock? I see a man back there that I have to know who he is. He's shaking his head when I say it. Roller skating was a passion of mine, but Lakefield didn't keep their sidewalks real well. One of the roots of one of the trees had lifted the cement on one of the sidewalks, and of course, skating in those days was the time that my friend used to. And I caught me in the soul in my. So after another meeting with Dr. Gaffel, picture. And Dr. Fraser was the doctor delivered me, but then of course he was tired of Dr. Gaffel came. And of course he made house calls. And due to my chronic bronchitis, I got to know him really, really well. And Betty Lake was of the Bickle family, and she was his nurse, and she used to come and give me shots. Dr. Fraser was also a neighbor, had a where I was in the name, and he had electric lights because he built a generator. Very smart. During the early 50s, the Lions Club was very active. And on long weekends in the summer, street dance was a social life. Remember the street dance? The main street was closed and they ran games like over and under, roulette wheel, bingo. Mr. Sloan always called bingo. And they had a live band for dancing, and the girls, we spent weeks deciding what we were going to wear. Remember? And who were we going to meet when we got there? And in October, for Halloween, the kids started to gather up by the shell, which is Mr. Canadian's now. And everybody would join in along the way and parade to town hall, where the Lions judged costumes up on the stage and gave out prizes. People made their own costumes in those days. And my mom was so good at it. I love it. I should thank her. They always show them movies where they big and then as we left, they handed every child a bag of candy. Always did it too. They were really active in our community in those years. And the town hall was used by the United Church Young People's Group to put on plays. There were people like Ralph Millage, Dave Spence, Connie Orr, Betty Millage, Harry Wanamaker, Lois Keller, Eileen McCracken, Garnet Graham, Mamie Drills, Shirley Graham, Jean Miller, all those people, and they would put on several shows and written up in the Examiner and all that kind of stuff. But I remember one with a mystery, a murder mystery, and somewhere in the back panel, I think a fireplace on the wall or something moved, and the person had stabbed somebody in the floor. I was let it be peaceful. And every time I went up my stairs to go upstairs, the first landing, there was a flat wall right there. And I had to just peel my way around that corner for a long time because I was scared of it. And of course the drive-in. The drive-in was a big deal in the States. And I helped my dad. I remember cleaning paint pails of stuff out of the garage and putting them in the trailer for the dump. And the town dump was where Rick Wilford has his business over there by going to the park. Just as you round that sharp corner, right back in there is where Rick is, and that was the town dump. Now Sheila and Roy didn't even know that. Oh dear. Yeah. And I remember going in the summer to school, to the old school, the cheese factory. My dad used to paint to finish up. So I don't know what, and after we came out coming home, he let me drive from the schoolhouse to the highway. Chip. And I had never done it before. I still remember doing that, so I was a big deal. Anyway, and then the other thing that I used to do with my dad, for cowboys for big meals to get anything from Rochester and Buffalo wasn't no snow. And I wanted a 42. Well, then Dad would take with the bad shot. I don't think I ever put in my gun, stop and after I tried time. It just, and we spent time in many a country church. Dad and Grandpa did a lot of redecorating the church because Grandpa did a beautiful green. I still got the green tools, and he would create all the views and the outer doors, that sort of thing. The big doors on my house in Regent Street were originally all green, and that's you know. I remember my grandfather sitting in the chair to the radio Saturday night. First came the hot, then came Don Mentor's Islanders, okay, then came the Grand Ole Opry. And he'd sit there and hold them, no yawning. So, oh dear. And like, so that was when Grandma and I would be down Saturday night shopping. He would do lists all of those. And then, of course, there were the teachers that we've had over the years. This kid, of course, Stephen. And the one year, year that the high school, Sally and all of my, James and all my friends, we were grateful and they were proud that they had no place to one. So they took off and put it all change. With a young woman teacher, what they were thinking about. They should have sent Anderson one acre or something, but they sent this young woman teacher. Well, of course, with time of my home on ourselves, home on the fence, now I think, oh, but anyway, they would ring a bell, she would ring a bell, and we would line up. Well, of course, the boys were getting to the point where they weren't being able to handled, and one boy was hitting another boy, and he moved, and the boy was dead, but the teacher squared it, and she never came back. But I don't remember what it was. I didn't look. Sure, he was there. No, but it was a while, and we were there until Christmas time, and then of course, well, they moved high school to the place. Now it didn't legitimately open until March, but they moved it to and then said Mr. Stevens, first principal, and my mom was the secretary. She was there like 32 years. Um, Sheila and my mom and her sister Darcy, they worked in the office for years. They became great. Mr. Stevens was also a young. He was in the Air Force. He was war veteran in the Air Force and a captain in the Army in World War II. And he wrote a poem that he'd given mom a copy. It's called Our Heroes. Up shall those glorious deeds be told in our hearts and flow. How brave Canadians fought so well amid the rumor of shot and shell, while all around the seething hell bravely they fought. Fierce was the charge the Germans made upon the Allied ranks. Their lines advanced in dense array. They forced French to give them way. But Canada's men were there to stay. To them we owe our thanks. Bravely they rushed into the fray, fighting for many hours. Before their onslaught, the savage army had to retreat for days. Although our men fell one by one, the victory was ours. Our children's children will always tell of those deeds crossed the sea. Here are heroes. How our heroes at young years made their stand against the troops of the Vaterland. Why did they do it, you demand? It was for liberty. That was right now. I have high school memories of everyone congregating like from the village outside Jim Crawford's garage and the guys tinkering on the cars and every boy had a little car and they would cruise up and down the street. That was our social life. They Bryce Morris would chase the odd one. But they always let them go after they gave them the phone to Mr. Sam, of course. Those cars when they late at Bell City Speedway. What is it? We still have a whole lot of old cars. What's good? However, they had a great deal of fun. That was nice. And I got my license when I was many of them. Simpler. She did. I went about teaching with someone that I was going to 2 minutes forward. And things wouldn't stand. My mom would stand. So this so he worked at Jim Crow's scratch and he wanted a chauffeur's license so he would drive the right truck. So we go up to Bob Cajun and Thurston's for the branch. He did the license. He was on a corner and it was horrible. So I drove down one street, turned the corner, down the next street. I stand in the car, I'm the driver, and he drove down one street, back to the scratch. I have my license, he got a chauffeur's license, back to license, and then I learned to never back. I or I never and I don't even drove on the road. I know the chief anyway, by that time, my sweet sister Linda moved to Peterborough. And you couldn't phone Peterborough, it was long distance. Couldn't, and of course you didn't drive into Peterborough then, like you, some of us in the air, and mom and dad. And, but anyway, Sam's sister, Doreen, because she became my next sister, obviously. And, anyway, we talked together, uh, had a lot of memories of high school sports. One of the highlights was winning the, senior class of basketball with a coach by the name of Helen. She was our visit. And, she married June or July to a Mr. Arnold. And I think they're still up there. I think they have a golf course up there at Ryerson. And I think she was actually on the school on too. But when she got married to Mr. Arnold in Peterborough, and she had the basketball team serve at her mission. Well, that's kind of neat. She really appreciated it. I believe her. There's a picture of that where the teacher pictures are over there. And we played in the league. We couldn't play with Peterborough schools today, so we had to travel by Coyle at a bus. And I think you Dunford used to drive that bus, did you know? Yeah. And we wouldn't have to go to Halliburton, Fenland, and Banbury. Well, that's a pretty good place. And of course, all of the and boys, because and everybody played. And I still have to be careful. She was the one to do all the jokes, her dad would tell her all the jokes, and she was the one leading singing, and you were there before you knew it. Anyway, they were fun. And we had cheerleading, and the boys' sports did well too. Um, one of the dances when I was in grade 12, I was the social and so we were having our spring and the song Wonderland by Night. So we decided that we needed to fix up the gym so that it looks like Paris. So you got this real feel. And we decided we needed to cover that and that we needed little patio tables around the outside. Well, my mother sent to my grandfather's and got hold some wool cheap. And we took over Sharon Clancy, who lives next door to us, and we put it in her bathtub and dyed it blue. And took it out to the back school field and laid it all out to dry. And when it was all dry, we took it in the school and we used all the machines in the home ec room and we sewed all the strips together to make seal for the gym. I don't recall how we attached it. I don't know. Anyway, after we got back home, Mom tried very hard to get PCBX to give us their ball that's fun with the mirrors on it. No way. So we made a huge big ball with tinfoil and put it up there and put spotlights from the old, our cafeteria looked down on the gym. So we put spotlights up there on it and then we hung silver stars on the ceiling. Well then, I wanted lights on each of the little things. The best lilacs of town were hanging over the side of the canal beside Sally's father's garage. Mm-hmm. Well, who are we going to go hang on the side of the canal? Gary Jones and all his buddies, Jack Breaker. So there they were filling up Gary's lime green town truck with lilacs. Anyway, it was phenomenal. And I have no pictures whatsoever. I can't believe my mother didn't take pictures. Anyway, that was we had our Parisian cafe, our little cafe, and we had our high school band, which when they started it, Mr. Ephraim Johnson started it. He got kids from grade 7 and 8 from our public school. He taught how to play the band. So that as the older kids graduated, it did definitely thing. We had kids coming in all the time as well as going out. And so we were in the band, and that was where Gary Jones and John Breaker and stuff, they played trumpet. They were Jack was phenomenal on the trumpet. We played for the cadets, we played for commencement, we played for strawberry social, little country uh, churches, and the Santa Claus parade in Peterborough, Lions Club from Wakefield went in, was in the parade, and we were in the parade. And Remembrance Day, we always like Remembrance Day, which is another beach, where you played. And that was like, those were just the days. So much fun. We learned a lot. In the old time too, the town was still, but we were commercial. And it was like Saturday, a little restaurant. There was a pool. People, parents didn't let them go in there because the pool was there. But my dad was the pool. I'm all over later. I think he was against the pool. And so I was there. We would stop on the way home after school. Everybody would have French fries, Coke, and that kind of thing. But I always got teased because I like Jane Dud Coke, fresh peach pie. And there was Jane sitting in her peach pie and her glass of milk while everybody else had French fries. Anyway, I got teased. But then to help us with counseling, Joyce Patterson started teaching. And we had it at the town hall. We had, for some reason, I was from our files team for 1952 for the university. The first meeting of the newly organized team town was held Saturday, March 23rd. Dancing was held for an hour, and the election for officers for the club was Don Nichols, representative from the town council, gave a list of 5 rules which are to be followed if we are to use the town hall for meetings. They are as follows. A male chaperone up to 10. Membership is limited to girls and boys from 12 to 19 within the Lakefield District High School area. No drinking or smoking will be allowed. The hall must be cleared and cleaned by 11:30. Any damages or breaks must be paid for by town. The following people were nominated to office, the first name being Reeve, Bob Bell, Jack Sharman. Treasurer, Carol Norley, Nancy Henry. Councilor, Marion Webster, Jack Bratton. First 4 elect, Dale Kennedy, Lorraine Fenner, Roger Joplin, Beverly Chapman. Chaperone Committee, Jack Bratton, Jewell, Carolyn Down. Program Committee, Marion Webster, Diane Messel, Jane Bolton. Records and prizes, Lorraine Fenner, Beverly Chapman. Drink, Dale Kennedy, Bev Frost, and Maria. And then dancing was continued, and there were spot dances, one by several. Any teenagers interested in joining T-Town? Our next meeting will be held April 6th. So long for now. Our T-Town report. Okay. And we went to talking. Our big store. Morning. He not only was a fantastic, he also liked to be in person. And Linda, manager, and then so Linda and I were, and it was upstairs, 5 of those upstairs bleachers. And so we would go up and stir hot chocolate to get it so that they just had to put hot water in. Well, of course, when Lonnie did it, Linda and I would be up there screaming. And the friends from the other team mostly sat on the bleachers. Well, I think it even took 10 to line to kill them. See it, Anyway, we die-hard Monty fans. Here. And we used to go, well, I went down to watch Jonathan play. Great judge. Out of everybody, he was one. There's a picture of that one team with Rachel in it. Neil, I need you to look at it. There was somebody changed the name in that picture when I had it at the reunion, and I want you to tell me which one of them is right. They changed the a Kraken, I think, or something, to an Archer, something like that. Anyway, neat looking thing to and my dad loved fishing, and he and Jerry Northey built my dad a cedar strip canoe, or boat, and they kept it in a boathouse on the water up where Isabel Park with Belmont Park. There were little falling down boathouses along that shore, which is now, I guess, it's subdivision. But no, it would be Isabel Park before. Anyway, Dad kept his boat in there. Well, it got full. It, but before that, we used to narrow and they troll for monkey and all that kind of stuff. And even though I couldn't sing, my mom couldn't sing, Dad could. We would sing cruising down the river on a Sunday afternoon as we went on up through the narrows, off the road, up that way. And then when we fished it early, my grandfather came over to us. He and Grandma were in the boat, and we were in the boat. Came over and said, "Look, can't go." And my mom reached down to the bottom of the boat. Look at the water. Poor Dad. He wasn't in on that. But if you do look at pictures and things, you'll discover that Dad won the most for big flowers years later. And but it was complicated. But I graduated from teaching college, but during that time I lived at home. Mom was very supportive, encouraging. And the one year my summer job was Ken Morris. He had the then building up there where he was running for a few because the mill was running over there, and he opened this house in Florida, which was for spraying on roads to that was for. And he had someone to come and work on time, something like that. Anyway, he asked Emily to if she would be interested in being in the office. She said no. Well, I was driving these girls to teachers college, so I picked them up, and then she's telling me when I got back to school, I phoned Isabel because I didn't look there. I phoned Isabel, my dad had phoned the phone, and I said, I'm interested in your job. She said, do you have a boyfriend? Yeah. She said, and will you be to work on time in the morning? I said, yeah. And then she said, okay, we'll give it a try. Because the phone at the office would bring into the house. And she was raising 4 children. And nobody was up there answering the phone because Kim wasn't there. So she was in charge of hiring somebody to be there. Anyway, as it got, Kim was involved with a man named Luke Cadell, and he had shares in uranium, I think, and he used to get Kim flying. Kim, whole thing. He's flying north to check things out. Well, he'd be gone for 2 or 3 days at a time. So here I am, I'm going to go 17 in the summer. I'm getting a call from the county superintendent of the P and Township saying we need such and such a road sprayed next week with calcium chloride. And we want it here, we want this many tons, and we want it on certain days at certain times. I'm going, okay, so I write this all down. Then I have to phone both carriers because they have to pick up the calcium chloride. They go and spray and that's it. So Kim finally did show up one day and was going through his checks that had come in from the mail. And he said, what did we do with the peanut? We sprayed her up. And he said, okay, another song again. But anyway, I learned all by anyway, Tim and anything to do with teaching, but he didn't mind. I sat there and did charts for my first new class. Yeah. Anyway, so my teaching job was in Scarborough, and I was in Scarborough. The school I went to was huge, had 1,100 kids. My first year was grade 2, 42 children, and I was next to nothing. I learned to do stuff. However, that's the way she is. So Ray and I got back together again after having been kids together. Um, he, his great grandmother, great aunt, had been house for Democrat eventually. Um, in 1960, they bought it and they moved in there. And they had sold off piece of property, raised remand, to build back that. Gina later brought me in a picture taken from that side of the line showing six ways. And Ray used to walk across that field and do his job for Ray. Um, so, look at this section. So, we get back to Ray. Ray's family story, uh, he had a story to pass as well. His great grandfather was one of Peter Robinson immigration. In 1820, they came out of the cabin and they settled there for a while. And then they moved into Peter, where the Clancy man had kind of a pub and then eventually he built a hotel on Hunter in 1882, and it's called Hunter. And he married a girl and I told him called his dad named John. And John helped John Clancy in this hotel. And it's now called the and it was designated heritage site. So before Ray was very sick, I took him in, stood in front of him, and there's a picture of him over there that behind showing his from his family hotel team. And what we didn't know all those years had changed names. They've been until we started looking up genealogy and finding the Clancy's come. There they were, building a hotel. Ray's first job was at Peterborough, and then he was there at 61. And then he went to Toronto and worked on for 4 years before he went straight from trade school, got his welding ticket. And I was teaching up there, we were teaching up there, and eventually at Cheryl up there, but it wasn't a place to raise a child. We didn't think about it. And so we ended up coming back to Lakeview. Ray was able to get a job with Miss McGee. The whole thing was great. And he got very interested in young lads down in his welding control all around. And actually, one year in the 70s, Ray and other fellows got together and they built a crossroads in the fairground. And Ray would bring up some of the men that worked for that and on that for Joey Hall, Sharon Clancy, those guys. And they were big name athletes to the kids. So Ray would bring them out and they would coach the kids on the different skills stuff and the kids would throw. I can't remember who the fellows were that helped him with